What should you watch first, the prequel trilogy or the original trilogy?
Ooh, I feel like that depends on if you're wanting the surprise or not.
Yeah.
If you're introducing somebody to it, I would say go with the original 4, 5, and 6 because you want them to have that surprise, and then it's going to set up suspense to watch 1, 2, and 3. But if you're a
100%.
fan who knows what's going on, then you would watch it 1 through 6.
Right. I'm gonna say you watch 4, 5, 6, then 1, 2, 3.
Personally, I started out watching 4, 5, and 6. That's when my dad showed me first. So I definitely say it's a good way to get people involved in the universe. And I feel like, I don't know, I feel like the prequels have a lot more nuance, and it starts to get you involved in the story a lot more, and kind of you start to get to know the Jedi and how they acted before the events of the original trilogy. So I would say, yeah, I do original trilogy first, and then the prequels are a little bit more in depth. Yeah, I think there's a reason George Lucas made it the way he did. But
yeah, I'm the first one to say differently. I actually prefer to watch the prequels first. Granted, I saw the original trilogy before I saw the prequels the very first time when I was getting introduced to Star Wars. But I'm someone who likes to strictly watch things in the order that, they are chronologically, even if it's not the order they were uploaded. So I actually prefer watching the prequels first. I don't know. Maybe I just nitpick, but I just get more immersed into it that way, and it helps me enjoy the story as it progresses until we finally reach the end. So that's why I watch the prequels first.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You're a traitor. That'll be the first bleep right there. I had to do it. I had to break our chair.
I think that makes sense. I think that's understandable. It's more of a narrative kind of watch through then. I can see that.
Yeah. So Star Wars Network has actually shown a lot of people who have never seen Star Wars before, like the movies. For 3 of my friends, I've shown them, 4, 5, and 6, and then 1, 2, and 3, and most of them understood except one of them. One of them was like, "What's going on?" That's legit what she asked me. She's like, "What is going on here?" And she didn't understand any of it. And she was like, "So how is there a galactic empire? How did they make the Death Star? Oh, we'll get there." And my one friend, Sam, was like, "I want to get into Star Wars." So I was like, okay, well, Phantom Menace is finally coming out in theaters. You know what? I'm just going to take you to watch Phantom Menace, and that will be your first Star Wars movie. And guess what? He understood the entire movie, and he wanted to watch the rest in chronological order. So I actually was like, you know what? Okay, we're actually now going to watch the Dooku episodes of Tales of the Jedi, and then Attack of the Clones, and then we're going to watch Clone Wars. Because watching it this chronological order, he's actually excited because he doesn't know what will happen in the OT. And also, if you watch it that order, you get very emotional when Order 66 happens. So I actually have to say the best way to watch it, if it's a newer fan, do the, OT trilogy first.
Right. Yeah. I always watch the original first, then the prequels, and then whatever comes after that. And I know that you guys all have different opinions. But my next thing I'm going to segue into is, should you watch the sequels? I know there's some pretty controversial takes on this, so I want to hear you guys' opinions first before I tell you mine.
I'll go first. So personally, I know there are some people in here that might disagree, but I say no. I watched the sequels once, all the way through, and they really just kind of, in my opinion, they ruined the characters from the original trilogy. They kind of just destroyed George's legacy a little bit. Like I said, I know this is a bit controversial, and from the perspective of someone who is a little bit of a Star Wars purist, I really don't feel like they reflect well on the prequels or the original trilogy. That's just my opinion. I think the characters in the sequel trilogy are a little bit weak. They don't have much character progression as the stories go on. And that's also kind of due to the way the movies were produced, stuff like that. But that's my opinion. And I mean, I think, yeah, you can show people them and say, you know, this is an option. This is technically canon. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't feel like those should be a part of a watch through.
I agree with that. I think that I have a bit of a different take. I think you should watch The Force Awakens and you shouldn't watch The Last Jedi or The Rise of Skywalker. If you're really interested in Star Wars, then obviously you should watch it, you know, just for fun and see what was made. That's just how I see it.
I actually think you should watch the entire sequel trilogy. Yes, the entire sequel trilogy. Even though I myself don't like The Last Jedi, they are canon. Like, that's the thing. They are canon. They are still making content to connect to those films. And love it or hate it, I will watch them through a sit through. Now, I do think Force Awakens is my favorite one out of all of them. And Rise of Skywalker, I'm actually a defender of. And I feel
wait. Mind if we get into that a little bit? I'm actually kind of curious.
I was gonna ask the same thing.
Yes. So what do you? I'll admit there was there were some cool scenes in Rise of Skywalker, but besides that, I feel like storyline wise, it didn't really make much sense. But I'd like to hear your opinion. It's been a while since I've watched it, so why do you like Rise of Skywalker? I'd like to hear that.
I like it for a lot of reasons. First off, I make out with the poster every single night before I go to bed. All right. No. In all seriousness, that was just a joke, by the way, to all the friendly viewers listening. In all seriousness,
half the people stopped watching because of you. Like,
literally, we're gonna lose subscribers because of you.
Oh my god. But anyway, no. So, why I like Rise of Skywalker is because I actually think it continues what The Force Awakens set up with the characters. The characters go back to what they were for the most part, with the exception of Finn. I wish they did more with Finn, all right? I liked the characters of Poe Dameron and Kylo Ren. Ben Solo, to me, is the best character of the entire sequel trilogy. I actually really did like his redemption, especially, the fact that they mimicked Han's death and now Han brings him back. That actually felt consistent, something that the sequel trilogy didn't have. At least they had somewhat of consistency with that. And I like the idea of them bringing back Palpatine because they basically grabbed it from Dark Empire. So, you're telling me you're all right with Darth Maul coming back. And how he comes back? Through his hatred. He is kept alive from his hatred. And you're telling me the very man who trained him can't have a contingency plan, such as Operation Cinder and all of that. He had all these plans that it's like, oh, hey, by the way, if I die, this might happen. I understand the story that JJ was trying to go for of Rey finding out, oh my god, I am the heir to Palpatine. I am the heir to the Empire. Like, legit, she is supposed to become the Empress because that is her bloodline. Yeah. And she is now even more conflicted than Anakin was, or Luke even. Like, Luke was conflicted because of his father. But imagine being told, oh, hey, your granddaddy is... Like, that's legit what, I view it like, Just imagine that.
Okay, so I can see why you like the story, but everything I'm hearing you say, it's more about maybe the hope for what the story could have been, because
that's exactly what I'm hearing too.
There's the fact that The Last Jedi was there. The Last Jedi was a part of the sequels, and that really threw it all off. I mean, you even look at Adam Driver. He talks about making the sequels. He's like, yeah, I really had no clue where my character was going to go. I agree with you. Kylo Ren was definitely the most compelling character in the sequels. He had a lot of potential. I didn't really like his arc. I thought his arc was really confusing and they went back and forth on a lot of stuff. But I do agree with you. I do feel like Palpatine coming back, I do feel like that made sense. I've read the Thrawn books and all that sort of stuff. He definitely could have come back and he definitely had contingency plans. I like the whole Bad Batch storyline where they're trying to set up him trying to become immortal and transferring his essence. Like I do like all of that and the cloning. So I think it made sense for him to come back. But
Well,
it was the execution of the whole story. I think for me, that was the problem. I think it's the way that they did it.
and see,
I don't know.
that is the thing, though. I said, like, I think Force Awakens is great the way it is, but I do defend Rise of Skywalker because I see the story that they were trying to tell, but it wasn't executed that well. I'll
But
straight up tell you that right now.
why would you want someone to watch it if it wasn't executed well? Where an entire fan base
Because
is
it's still canon. I'm a canon guy. Like,
well,
I'm
but even
gonna
if
tell
it's
you
canon or
that,
not, even if it's canon or not, should you get your friend to watch that movie?
Might never want to watch Star Wars again.
Yeah, if I'm really invested in the story and I watch the prequels, then the originals, and the Force Awakens, and then I see the Last Jedi and the Rise of Skywalker, am I gonna want to continue watching this franchise, or am I gonna give up after that one?
I mean, we all kept
See,
watching the franchise.
Yeah, like that's what
Ugh.
I mean. Like you're gonna have downfalls within each franchise, so
Look,
it's not.
I've remained silent this whole time, and all I can say is 7, 8, and 9 suck. Bleeping words that I can't say without getting us demonetized.
we can't say these
Okay?
words right now.
But understand the 7 had an okay setup. I'll say this: it's okay,
yeah.
but we still deserved better. 8, we'll never know what it was because 2/3 of the film got ripped away because Carrie Fisher died. God rest her soul. And 9, they tried to bounce back and go back to where they were before, and they just totally screwed up. And I will punch anyone who defends. I'm Ray Palpatine.
Okay, I don't agree with that.
Yeah, Seth, what are your opinions on the Rey Skywalker thing?
Okay. Now I understand. Now everyone's going after me because I like the movie. But
That's okay. Everybody, we gotta have somebody.
in all seriousness, the whole story, like I understand what they were trying to do, like I said before, but you could have just ended with them celebrating and that was it. Like she didn't have to go Tatooine and be like, I'm Rey Skywalker and looking at the suns,
Yeah.
Right.
All right, so my opinion is definitely not Seth's opinion. I actually will say I did enjoy The Force Awakens. I remember going to it in theaters when I would think I was like, I don't know, 12 or 10. And I actually really enjoyed it, especially the first time I heard Kylo talk. And I did get sad when Han died. Yeah. I started getting annoyed when Rey magically used the Force. That's when I started having
no
problems.
training. Yeah.
With zero training, zero consistency in the lore, the Force is not something you unlock in a day. Anakin had to go through hard levels of training just to do it. And he was more Force sensitive than she was. So how does this girl who, has no idea what she's doing, just magically uses the Force, magically can tone the energy to take down a guy who's been training since he was a little boy? It's just like, it's not, it just doesn't make sense. And then, this is when I stopped liking Kylo Ren. He turns from this absolute cool character into a guy who cries constantly.
Yeah.
And has a big pouty lip of a 5-year-old child who hit his head on the floor and now wants his mom. And then how did Rey take down Palpatine with no effort? Why is she calling herself Rey Skywalker when she hasn't had a limb cut off yet? And also she sucks. Why did they have to kiss? In theaters, I cringed and looked away. That entire scene, I just why? This makes no sense.
Oh God! Don't go to where
the movies. What are your guys' opinions on Rogue One and Solo? I'll
Okay.
start us off with this one. I'll start us off. You should definitely watch Rogue One. It's an amazing movie. You should watch it after you watch the sequels, obviously, and the prequels and the originals. It's a beautiful, well done movie, and it should definitely be a must watch if you're trying to get into the Star Wars franchise. Solo, if you love the Solo character, you can watch it. I don't think it's mandatory. It's more of an optional watch. But what are your guys' opinions?
I'll go. I love Rogue One. Like I've never had a problem with it. I think the sound effects were great. The overall story was kind of easier to follow. I love the Death Troopers, especially their little they have a unique way of communicating. I don't know, they scramble their voices. Anyhow, Solo, I don't really know. It's just kind of a filler movie that doesn't really need to be there. I mean, it's cool he met Chewbacca and he got the Millennium Falcon. Otherwise, I don't really see the point of it. But it's still, it's still a good movie, and I love the cast. It's just I don't understand why it exists.
I'll tell you why it exists. Do you want to know why? Do you want to know why? So it was originally supposed to be actually a trilogy. So it's supposed to be 3 solo movies, but the problem was it came out, I think, right after The Last Jedi. So it flopped really bad. It's whenever Star Wars fans were just absolutely trashing Disney.
Yeah.
So
I'll
it
be
flopped
honest.
really bad, and
Yeah.
Disney didn't continue the trilogy. What was that, Outcast?
I'm sorry, wrong timing. But I was going to say, to be honest, I didn't really care to go see Rogue One or Solo, mostly because of what 8 and 9 just they like. I went to see 9 and I was like dragging my feet. I knew I was going to just regret my life decisions. It didn't matter how cool the chair was and that it was going to move around and that I was seeing it in 3D and all that crap. I knew it was just going to suck. So
Literally, when I went, no one was there in theaters.
yeah, it was like dead empty. And this is an event where, you should have seen a ton of geeks in costumes, the complete shift that has happened where 10 years ago, when a Star Wars film came out, when episode 7 was, coming out in theaters or whenever the hell it came out, just rolling back like a decade or so for relativity. If say a Star Wars film was announced and it was in theaters, you would have people lined up around the block, around the neighborhood at midnight with costumes and lightsabers. The theaters would have been packed. Now a Star Wars film comes out or is announced, nobody can cares. It's just complete apathy. And there is one thing I will say about episode 9, the only one scene that if you ever rebuilt an episode 7, 8, 9, that needs to be inserted and reimagined, of course, recontextualized, is the lesson where Luke it learns about failure from Yoda. I think, yes, it's sort of been repeated in the past, but it is still so relative today, and it would be very fitting for an older Luke dealing with other crap. It doesn't matter a lot of the different stories and things he went through, you could work it into. I do think that was the only good scene. Like, I love that, seeing Yoda again. But interestingly, if you saw it in theaters, it looked terrible. I don't know what model they were using, but it was absolutely awful. And I don't know I want to see it down in the comments. Who else went to it on opening week and remembers that horrible freaking model? Like, is there a picture?
Terrible.
Yeah, is there a picture out there of this thing? Like, good
No,
God.
I'll put a
What,
picture on
Yoda? Are you talking about the Yoda model that they used?
Yeah, like the first
Yeah.
when they first put it in theaters.
Okay,
like,
so the puppet, that was a puppet because the thing is, they wanted, as you know, to go back to the OT route, and they made a Yoda puppet again, and they were kind of debating, okay, well, we can't do fully the original Frank Oz one from the 80s, so then they basically combined elements from the original one, the one from Phantom Menace.
Oh God.
Yeah, which you remember how bad that one was?
Ketamine Yoda.
So they grabbed that one, and also the CGI Yoda from the prequels, and they basically combined it all together. And, well, you kind of got that, all right? So,
You ended up
it's
with
not the worst.
You ended up with I am Yoda. Yeah.
It's not the worst
What you
look
ended up
of
with.
Yoda, in my opinion. I still think the Phantom Menace look was by far the worst.
No.
Dude, that thing
I think
was,
the Rebels had the worst Yoda.
God, yes.
Oh, well,
God,
yeah, but I'm saying, like, live action. I think
Oh,
the
100%.
Phantom Menace one was by far the
Oh.
worst.
I applauded their attempt, totally, whatever. It was nice to see puppetry come back, but it was like, How did George sign off on this? What was like Yoda an anorexic while he was in the Jedi Temple? Why does he? What? What
His
happened?
He was
model
like
changes so much over
horrible
different projects.
looking.
He's
And
high
at least
on
they fixed him later
cocaine.
on.
Let's just admit
Yeah, they fixed him.
The cutest Yoda was when they came out with the episode 2 model and the episode 3 model. That's like the best Yoda right there. Like,
Oh,
that-
100%.
Agreed.
yeah.
Extremely.
But yeah, so personally, I know I kind of put in my thoughts a little bit on Solo there. I love Rogue One. I've watched it.
Yeah.
It's probably the Star Wars movie I've watched the most amount of times besides Revenge of the Sith. I love the cinematography. It's a beautiful movie. Like, it's just pretty to look at, especially the Death Star, you know, all those scenes, Death Troopers. I think really good character creation, in my opinion. If character creations for characters who are only in one movie, like you don't have that much buildup even. Blaise Malbus is a great character. Like with the blind guy, I'm trying to remember his name. But yeah, no,
Cheer it.
Sure, way.
yeah, it was a great movie. Just all around. If we could get something like that, I mean, I don't know if it would necessarily unite the fan base, but I think it was universally kind of regarded as a good movie. And then Solo, I know a lot of people don't actually like Solo, but I'm kind of a defender of Solo. I thought it was a pretty good movie. Like I said, same thing with Rogue One. Cinematographer wise, it was beautiful. It was nice to watch and look at. And I think it had potential for a storyline if it had continued in being a trilogy. I think it could have shown Han Solo's canon character very well. They're both really good movies, and I would definitely show them probably after I show them the prequels and the original trilogy, maybe in between those two. Yeah, no, they're definitely included in a watch through, in my opinion.
I also think that the only problem with the Solo movie, and if you're trying to watch Star Wars for the first time, is a bit of a spoiler, is that they kind of ruined Solo's last name. And I know a lot of people
Yeah.
talk about it, and
Mhm.
it's not his actual last name. I think that was the only mistake that they could have made in that movie. That's all.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed. But it was enough for me to overlook that part. But you know,
Rogue One is the best film that Disney made under the Star Wars umbrella. Probably the best thing
Agreed.
that they've made, plain period. Gareth Edwards is legit just like us. He's a super Star Wars nerd, so he knew what to do with Rogue One. It was really well done. Loved it. Solo, though, I'm actually gonna disagree.
Wow.
I actually would not watch Solo. And if I did, and I know Spooky, we're going to get there, you would have to watch Clone Wars first.
That is my next topic, actually.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. But would you
Yeah.
have to though? Because that part, I know the part you're talking about with the Crimson Dawn, that only comes in at the end, really, the end of the movie.
Yeah, but it kind of spoils the reveal that Darth Maul is still alive. Like, you get what I mean by with
Okay, that actually does make sense.
casual people. Like, I much rather find that out in Clone Wars because that reveal, well, that's actually the way even George wrote it and
Yeah,
Dave
yeah, I
Filoni.
guess that's
So
true.
I would have it. It's kind of like unnecessary. I mean, I understand it's not the worst thing that they put out. I kind of don't like how everything that we know Han Solo to have, like his Delta 42 blaster and how he gets the Falcon and, you know, the dice and all of that happens within a week.
I like
Yeah.
that. I actually liked how he got the Millennium Falcon and all that stuff. That was cool to me.
I feel like Tobias Beckett was a great idea, but I feel like we should have seen more of that mentor figure.
Agreed. Yeah,
You know,
he should have been in there
Right.
more.
and I understand Han is actually a good guy, but the thing is, though, when we introduce him in A New Hope, he's really not a good guy. All right, he's the guy who you're supposed to be like, okay, this is his redemption
Right.
Well,
with
so that-
Chewie. You know,
Well, so that's the point, though, is it was supposed to be a trilogy. That's why it feels so unfinished. That's why there's so much left off, is because it was supposed to be 3 movies. And that's the problem. It was never
That would
really
explain
given
the ending.
what it deserved. Yeah. And that's why it was like that. Yeah, they ended
I
up
also-
not making
I
it because
understand.
it didn't perform well enough at the box office. So
Now, I'm going to segue into the next part because I know a lot of people are probably going to agree on this one. Should you watch the Clone Wars and Rebels? And I know that Clone Command and Star Wars Motion are very big fans of Clone Wars, so I'll let one of them start
Okay, well, I might as well start. It's in my title or in my name. Yeah. So personally, I love the Clone Wars. I think it adds a lot of depth to a time period in Star Wars that's really important. It builds up a lot of these main characters. It really is a big part of Anakin's arc and how he's able to. There's just all this built up anger, and yeah. So I think personally, Clone Wars, it's not necessarily a must watch. I mean, you can show them a couple good arcs in the series, like episode arcs. There's quite a few good seasons. Towards the end, the seasons get better and better. The first few were a little bit weird. Dave Filoni, I think, did a really good job getting his thoughts organized and finishing up some little character threads and stuff towards the end. But the Clone Wars is really just a fun show to watch, I think, for all Star Wars fans. And then Rebels, I do not think it's essential. I'm going to be honest. I enjoyed watching Rebels. I thought it was a really fun show to watch. It shows a lot of Thrawn, at least canon Thrawn. I don't know. I like I said, I liked watching Rebels, but I would not say it's essential.
I agree with that 100%. I think that the Clone Wars to me is a must watch because I grew up on the Clone Wars and it's my favorite Star Wars show. Probably my favorite Star Wars project. You know, it goes before all the movies for me. It gives us Ahsoka,
Ahsoka's a very important
Rebels.
character, yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. The Rebels to me, I don't know if it's considered a must watch because it's new character, it's Ezra Bridger and that whole crew. But if you're a Star Wars fan, you're getting into the first time and you want to see, a show that you're gonna enjoy, I definitely recommend watching both of these shows.
I will. I'll speak next. The Clone Wars and Rebels are both childhood specials because every time I tell my family I want to watch Star Wars, and this happened twice with two different people, they put on first the Clone Wars, and I watched the very first episode of Clone Wars. Then another time it was Rebels, and I watched the very first episode of Rebels, and I started getting into it. It's got so much depth and explains so much behind everything, and not to mention this was when Prime Star Wars was going on. So you're not going to see anything bad in the Clone Wars. A lot of the stuff they show is like really good and really necessary to the story. You might even tear up at some points because of just how well written and scripted it is. Rebels a little bit less important to me. I do like the Inquisitors. I don't really care about the crew, but I want to say Rebels. Yeah, if you're a Star Wars fan and you're getting into like more lore and finding out what happens to Darth Maul, then yeah, go ahead and watch Rebels.
What was that, Outcast?
My only input on all this is, see, it is ironic that the fan base is still split because the Clone Wars does break G canon. However, it has become so lovable that in some weird ways we kind of accept it. Many of us look at it, it was like seeing Star Wars or for the first time in theaters, and for other people and whatnot, or just sitting down on the couch with their families and seeing Star Wars. For some, it was their introductory, and for some, it was memories of debating with their father and whatnot, and even the debates of the canon itself were part of that. So when it comes to the Clone Wars and Rebels, I honestly think, looking at them overall as a whole, they are beautiful stories. I honestly like them, and if I were really sitting and binging the whole thing, and I were really going to show somebody everything, oh yeah, they would actually end up getting inserted appropriately where they should be in between the movie episodes. Especially if you have somebody that just is totally open to, okay, this is going to bounce around between like animation and real life for a bit, but just bear with me. Yeah. But it does give Effie when it comes to that last season 7 of the Clone Wars. Just because parts of it are taking place like as episode 3 is happening, and then the end of the episode is after it, and it's like, okay, I have no idea where to watch this one now. And I did not like that Disney did that, because you used to be able to sit down and watch all the media from start to finish, and it would just go from one to the next.
Wait, so I have a question. If you sat down your friend and you were like, hey, we're gonna watch Star Wars for the first time, you'd put the Clone Wars in between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith?
If I had somebody that was nerdy and really open, at least had some loose idea of what Star Wars was, and was like, okay, bro, do you really want to sit down and like see everything in like true chronological order and fully understand the whole thing? Yeah. And even at parts, I would pause and say, okay, now go read this book. This is what happened next, and then we'll come back to the show.
Really?
Yeah, Clone Wars is a definite watch, 100%. I mean, I grew up with Clone Wars as well as with Rebels. I absolutely also think Rebels is a must watch. I feel like Rebels is the best sequel series to Clone Wars, especially season 2 and 3, and that last season was phenomenal. They're basically
Yeah,
equally good in my eyes. So
they're both great shows. Amazing. Definitely, if you like Star Wars, you should definitely watch them. Should you watch Tales of the Jedi, Tales of the Empire, and The Bad Batch?
ooh.
And
Yes,
this is a
moving
bit of
on.
a
Yeah.
weird take. I think that The Bad
Agreed.
Batch was an
Exactly.
amazing show. And
Totally.
I
Well,
know
besides
that some
Omega, she
people
was
here,
obnoxious.
well, I liked Omega a little bit too, but
Room Command, you are
that's the
right.
thing.
Yeah, Omega
I
was definitely
loved that
the
show.
worst part of the Bad Batch. But no,
She
I
had her
totally agree.
moments.
Personally, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like the best part of the Bad Batch was like the Clone Uprising kind of arc that Rex had. I know they're talking about making Clone Uprising animated show, something like that. So honestly, I feel like there were a lot of compelling story arcs, and the Bad Batch was cool because they could go into places where the Clone Wars couldn't. Because Clone Wars, it focused a lot on the combat between the Separatists and the Republic, but when you see the Bad Batch, they're not really affiliated. They've just been kind of cast out from the Empire, formerly the Republic, so they can go into a lot of places that haven't really been explored in animation, at least. So honestly, I think the Bad Batch, very good watch. Tales of the Empire,
Is it
And that's
wrong
what
that I've not?
Rebels.
Is it wrong that I've not even seen Tales of the Empire? I had no
no, it
interest.
wasn't that
Yes.
good. It wasn't that good.
Yes.
It wasn't that good.
As a Star Wars content creator, you should definitely go watch Tales of the Empire.
Yes.
Yeah,
Definitely.
just to get updated.
I don't know, man. It seems to even watch that kind of crap, and apparently you'll get called a fake fan. Even mention crap.
Well,
It's
you
got
know,
its ups and
you
downs.
ignore
So
those
hold
kind of.
on. I want to point out something. I'm having something fun going on my channel right now. So you all have you guys all heard of like Darth Paws and all that kind of crap? That dude, right? Always trashing on theory and whatnot.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
apparently
Yes.
they're pissed off at me right now, and they've sent what's his face, Brandon the Awesome. He's been like blowing.
Oh my God, I know Brandon. I used to speak to him.
Yeah, the
I
little
used to be friends
little
with
dude
him.
is coming over to my channel now, starting crap because I got into a little debate with him today, like just
Oh really?
just over some stuff. And so yeah.
Hold on. In that case, Brandon, if you're watching this video, hey, it's AMI. Please don't go after these guys, okay? Just because I'm not in the Melvin community anymore. Please don't do that. All right, get a hobby, please. Leave these
They need
guys
to
alone.
they need to understand. It's like, look, I agree with like 90% of the crap they say, but there are some aspects. No, I don't. No. Like that's just humans though. We're not gonna agree on
Yeah,
it.
trust
Well,
me, I've been in that
that's
community.
all of us. That's straight up all of us. Like,
And
Seth
here's
is
the only
dealing with the no cussing rule very well.
thing I would say
Yeah.
to Melvin and the others would be, bros, could y'all stop complaining and maybe go do something creative? Like do something constructive instead of tearing everything down.
Yeah.
There you go.
Do what I do and
Hey.
make videos.
Yeah, go make lore videos. If
Yeah.
you're gonna sit here and criticize everybody for making how they do their lore videos wrong, which is one of the things he's going on about. You won't even watch the video to see how I actually do it, to see that, yeah, I'm not supporting Disney. I compare to Disney to let people see, oh yeah, the expanded universe was better. Anyways,
Yeah.
Now,
Tales
the
of the
Bad
Jedi
Batch.
was good. I really
Oh yeah,
liked
Tales of the Jedi was amazing. That was amazing.
Good.
Tales of the Jedi was good. No, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to derail us. It's just going on and it's kind of funny right now.
Yeah, you're good.
No,
You're
it's
good.
okay.
That's funny.
It's okay. I'll speak to Brandon if I can and get him to stop. And I'll actually go now. Tales of the Jedi, I enjoyed a lot. Tales of the Empire, you could tell they're trying to go for that female only
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. The female lead.
But you know, at least they carried it okay. You know, at least they did good
Right.
with it. You know, they didn't like
Yeah.
ruin
Yeah.
the
I agree.
story while they were at it. I mean, granted, Barris's arc, actually kind of enjoyed that. Still not entirely forgiving her.
I didn't
I
like
said
her arc,
kind of.
bro.
I said kind of. I said
Okay,
kind of.
okay.
Listen to me. Let me finish. boys, calm, chill, sit. Um, yeah, guys, what I'm trying to say is, at the same time, I never forgave her after the shit she did in Clone Wars, because I'm like, how does she go from being this vile ass person? All of a sudden, we're just supposed to forgive her? Nah, Barris, I remember everything. I remember what you did to Ahsoka. No. You don't just get to blow up 80 people,
Somebody
kill, like,
cute.
hundreds of Jedi, and then, oh, I'm good again. No.
When you guys edit this, you've got to have like a flashback montage to like just slow stock footage of all that.
Of her just committing all these war crimes. So, granted, I do kind of like Morgan Elsbeth. I love the scene with Grievous. Grievous, that's
Great,
because I
yeah.
love General Grievous in general. And
Dude,
then
that
the
scene was
Bad
awesome.
Batch. Okay, I love the Bad Batch. And I actually
Me
don't
too.
really, and I know I might get a little bit of backlash, but I actually don't mind Omega too much. She's not terrible.
No,
She's
I
kind of,
agree with you.
she's kind
I
of a
100%
filler.
agree with you.
Well, she's kind of like sometimes more of a distraction, but some like her own like personal story is like good. And I don't know if
Omega was
anyone else.
obnoxious. End of
No,
story.
she was obnoxious.
Boba wasn't.
Yeah.
Boba
Young
was
No.
obnoxious too.
young Boba, who was very
But-
much like her, which I thought she did brilliantly at portraying a very, like, not just
Similar,
a
like,
model.
version of her,
Yeah. She had this similar personality. It was just a female, and people forget that she is basically just like one of the clones. She is just female.
Quite literally. And I
Dude,
want to
I didn't
say
even notice that. Wow.
they did nail a lot of stuff, like the soundtrack for the Bad Batch. I absolutely adore, especially the season 3 one.
So
If you
true.
remember the season 3 episode 1 soundtrack when Omega is like kind of going through the prison, it's a great scene, and they honestly just nailed the music. They nailed the characters really well. They
Agreed,
kind of set
agreed.
the uniqueness. The only thing I'll ever complain about is they rushed the season 3 finale way too much. It's
I agree with that.
Rushed.
And
Yeah.
I'm gonna piggyback off of what Star Wars Motion said. The Bad Batch is one of my favorites, and you know why? That show was a combination of the Clone Wars and the family dynamic we see in Rebels, where it's these clones and they have Omega and they're trying to figure out how to bring her with them, and she's trying to like worry about herself and all that stuff. But season 3 did feel a little bit rushed. I think they could have executed it a little bit better. And then Tales of the Jedi, amazing. Tales of the Empire, not so much, but.
It's all right.
So if you're new to Star Wars, I would definitely recommend watching The Bad Batch. I
Mhm.
think it's a must watch. If you're gonna watch the Clone Wars, you have to watch the Clone Wars first.
Oh yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah,
100%. Because they make their first appearance in the Clone Wars. So
Yeah.
But that's the funny
And
thing
you-
is when you first see them, that you kind of don't like them. Like they
oh
come
yeah,
across as
especially
bad.
Crosshair.
Yeah,
Bad Batch? Nope. I don't like Bad Batch. Sorry, guys.
Ugh,
This
I
guy.
disagree with that one.
What in the hell?
What was that?
noise?
What was that?
Steven, you can't say that.
That wasn't me.
I also think, put aside the Clone Wars and the Bad Batch, you definitely need to watch Tales of the Jedi because that explains Count Dooku and his
100%.
twice
Falls
the
to the dark side.
prime, twice the prime, double the four.
I think you should watch the Dooku episodes. I don't think you should watch the Ahsoka ones.
Ooh,
Really?
Why?
Oh, that's a bad
Because,
take.
well, first
Choose
off,
your next
here,
words wisely, Commander.
the Ahsoka when she's a baby episode is definitely not needed at all.
But it was
I-
sweet.
It was
Yeah.
fun to watch. It was fun to
Yeah.
watch.
It's backstory, man. I mean, Ahsoka. Let me put it this
Yeah.
way: we know.
I'm gonna
we
be
all-
honest. That's the one episode I
Hold on,
skipped.
hold on. There's one thing I think is an
Really?
elephant in the
What?
room. We all know someday we're going to watch Ahsoka die. So
What?
that moment
Oh,
is
yeah.
important.
Thanks, Elephant.
Okay, well, yeah, I'm just talking about that one little episode, though, of just showing the flashback of how she's like her learning that lesson of the phase 1, and also they couldn't even get Obi-Wan's hair right. They used Obi-Wan's hair from Attack of the Clones, not his look of Clone Wars. Like, how dare you? Dave Filoni, you know better, buddy. You know better.
You don't talk about the mullet.
know?
We don't do it ever.
It's fine.
Now we're gonna get into the next bit. I know that Disney's been coming out with a lot of shows recently, and this is a perfect moment to talk about it. Watching Ahsoka,
Oh,
Kenobi, Andor, Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, The Acolyte, and Skeleton Crew.
Ahsoka, I liked it until the end when Sabine magically used the Force. That's not in her lore. She's not supposed to be using the Force, but I did kind of like the story overall. Kenobi, I have to say my favorite part of that show was the Order 66 sequence. Like that part where Palpatine was saying execute Order 66 actually gave me chills. Andor, I could live without. Mando seasons 1 and 2, I enjoyed. Season 3 was okay. I did enjoy the Order 66 sequence again because I do like Order 66. Book of Boba Fett, Mandalorian season 2.5, basically. Not necessary, doesn't need to exist. They ruined Boba Fett's character. I could have done with the Tusken scenes, but that's about it. Acolyte, no, it doesn't exist. Skeleton Crew, it's all right. I'm not gonna say it's my favorite, but it's all right.
I think that the shows that I can actually connect with are the best ones. Ahsoka was all right. The Sabine part had me a little bit tripped up because the show's not called Sabine, it's called Ahsoka. I didn't like Kenobi. Andor was great because I loved Rogue One and he was my favorite character, so that was really cool. The Mandalorian is that it was awesome. I love the Mandalorian. Book of Boba Fett, controversial take. I like the Book of Boba Fett. I'd watch it. The Acolyte, uh, no, don't watch that. And then Skeleton Crew, it was good,
Rod,
but
sorry.
I couldn't connect with the characters, so I couldn't enjoy it because it's like it's not that good.
Hey Seth, you go
Who's
you go
next
this
on the
time,
list?
so we don't have to save you
I
for
don't
last.
know. I think he deserves about 30 more seconds of awkward silence.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's just
No,
all
no,
sit here
no, no,
quietly.
no,
Everyone just sit here
no.
quietly.
I'll explain it. I'll explain the Book of Boba Fett if that's what you guys are talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah, no, Spooky, explain the Book of Boba Fett,
I'll
like
explain it. I'll
after
explain
all,
it. I'll explain.
you guys made me explain Rise of Skywalker. So,
Well,
how
that's a
dare
different
you
story.
like
That's a
Book of
different
Boba
story.
Fett? How dare you,
I'll explain it.
Spooky
I'll
Jawa?
explain this one. Okay, Boba Fett, great character. I think he had a wussy death in Return of the Jedi, so maybe it was like the best. They could have done a lot of things better. I hated the cyborgs. Their speeder bikes looked like kids
Come on.
stuff. I didn't like that stuff.
Slow motion
Um,
speeder bike chase. That was dumb.
yes, it does kind of get into like the Mandalorian season 1.5 or whatever it's called. But there are good aspects of that show where you get to see like the Pike Syndicate, the return of Cad Bane, all this stuff. It's cool, and it was kind of refreshing to see a lot of those characters back. I'll admit, Cad Bane looks stupid because he was a light blue color, but is it a must watch? Probably not.
I'll take the first 3 or 4 episodes. I agree 100%. The Tusken Raiders stuff I've said before, absolutely
100%.
beautiful, funny. I yes, it's very memeable, but Star Wars has always had a little goofiness in it when he's ride the Panther. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What about the other shows, Outcast?
Oh, if I'm looking at Ahsoka, all right. Okay, I started off with a lot of excitement for this one. For some reason, something about her white lightsabers kind of throws me off. Not that I didn't want to see white lightsabers. I'm not against that lore or whatever, I guess, per se. I think it's an interesting addition. But it was something, I don't know, visual effect was off the whole time. Like her lightsabers were too short and they just seemed freaky. Anyways, I really did not like where they kind of went with the storyline. I like the idea of bringing in another universe, but when it got to Thrawn and the space whales and just I'm just gonna be real. Yes, the over blatant feminism. Like I'm all for hardcore chicks in Star Wars. It's always been a staple. But this was just like by chance, every single one of them, by some random chance, collide in this one epic adventure.
Why does he sound like the dude from Polar Express?
But it's ridiculous, and I'm
agree.
kind of apathetic about season 2. Kenobi, I pretend it doesn't happen. I don't really remember most of it. It's something about a little girl underneath a robe and that being ridiculous, except for the scene where they're fighting. And no, this should not have happened. I do think it was epic. Even though it would not happen, Vader would never look at Obi-Wan and say, I am not your failure. He would never release him. But Anakin would. And I did like the idea in kind of a what if scenario. If this had ever happened, that would have been a beautiful moment between them. They still walk away enemies, but he does go, look, I'm not going to leave you shackled like I was with Ahsoka. I'm not your failure. This wasn't your fault. I killed Anakin Skywalker. I did like that. But it still, I don't really view it as it happened. Andor, look, I'm still having a hard time convincing myself to watch this one because I've watched some, like, I tried watching the first episode and it was just so, I don't like the character. I don't like Andor. Okay. I don't like him. And here's why, because as soon as Rogue One, the first poster dropped of that, all I could think, I got so excited. I was like, holy they're bringing Kyle Katarn. That's exactly what the dude looks like. They took his entire aesthetic and gave it to this guy, and they were like, haha, we're even going to give him similar story where he gives the Death Star plans, but guess what? He go boom and die.
Does he sound like that?
That's what happened.
I mean, if it's the slow pacing of the first episode, I think it changed a little bit. It's a little bit of a slow paced.
I would say the third
One way out. Yeah, sorry.
I would say
One way out.
with Andor real quickly, for you, Outcast, the show really does not pick up till the 6th episode.
Good God,
Just
that's a hell of an investment, man. I'm used to hearing like 3. You know, if you can get past season or episode 3, man, it picks up. So you want me to suck up for 6 fucking episodes of political?
Yes.
Blah, blah, blah. My God, that's like telling a hooker. Well, first you gotta, walk through these thumbnails. And anyways, so getting back. So Mando was okay. It's I love season 1, season 2, absolutely beautiful. It started off with a real nice Western vibe. I was like, cool, we're getting back to like hardcore Star Wars. Like, this is crap going rated R. He's like blasting people in the face right in the first episode, 5 minutes in. Sexy. All right, now we get to the season 3.
Right.
That's all I can say. It's just, why did you have to even do it? This didn't need to happen. You just ruined it. You were batting perfect, and then you just had to go an extra step. You had to flourish, Disney. Anyways, Book of Boba Fett, as I said earlier, great up through the Tusken Raiders stuff, and I do like that we do see him morally kind of calm down and age, and he's like, you know what? Now that I'm a leader, I'm gonna not be a bag and try to make sure my people are protected and whatnot. Be good to my people. If they love me, they will rally to me, and that's more important in the end when crap's going down. Acolyte, I don't know what you're talking about. I remember starting an episode of that, and then I just remember something about the power of many, and then I spaced out, and it was the end.
Right.
Skeleton Crew. I would throw Skeleton Crew in with like the Ewok Adventures as far as like, look, if you want to get it's kid Star Wars, you need that once in a while. You need that like fancy righty adult kid kind of adventure. And I like that it didn't really try to tie itself heavy other than what's his name being like, yo, I had a master once and they got killed and blah, blah, blah.
Dude, lost character, Jod or something like that.
Yeah, I keep
Nawood.
Forgetting his name. Jod, nah.
Dude, lost character. That's what everyone calls him now.
God, no.
Yeah, Jod, nah. Anyways, so I think they missed an opportunity there. I think somebody said that the other day, one of you guys, that they should have done a flashback with that. Totally agree. Like, you should have seen his master, meeting him and whatnot. Who was his master? Even if it was a rando, cool, just show us a face.
Well, didn't they have the actor? Like, they had an actor.
Yeah, it was a random. It was a random.
In the must-watch section, I think you should definitely put Mando, Andor, Skeleton Crew for kids. I want to put Book of Boba Fett in there. We can take it out. The Acolyte is not. You can't watch that. It's just not it. Ahsoka and Kenobi, if you want to watch and you like those characters, go ahead and watch it.
Mm-hmm. I would say the same about the sequels. If you like them, that's fine. Like, and I'm not going to sit here and dogpile on somebody. Hey, I will discuss the lore back and forth. And, the fun part about it is kind of talking to them about what maybe could have been. And that slowly leads them to the expanded universe. But yeah, I'm never going to knock somebody or be like, you're not a fan because you like 7, 8, 9. I just think we should have had a better 7, 8, 9.
100%.
Yeah.
In my eyes, the actual 7 and 8, I don't know what about a 9, but 7 was Ewok Adventures and then the other Ewok Adventures.
Yeah.
And
Anyways, I'm gonna give my thoughts on these real quick because I got to dip. But
Uh-oh.
so personally, I say Ahsoka. I really liked the idea. I liked Baylan Skoll. I thought he was a really compelling character. Probably one of the most compelling characters Disney's made in a long time.
100%.
Shin Hattie, I care less really. I'm excited to see where Baylan Skoll goes with the Mortis gods for sure. I always kind of liked that ever since they were introduced in the Clone Wars, or maybe they were introduced before that, but I don't know. And then Kenobi, pretty much the only part of that I actually remember was the duel. And I think the duel is great. It never should have happened. Andor, I really love Andor. It's a lot. It's a different feel of Star Wars, but it's definitely Star Wars. I'm really excited for season 2. I really enjoyed Andor. I like the character of Andor. And then the Mandalorian, I think I agree with most of you guys. Seasons 1 and 2 were great, like the Western feel, grittier, darker. Season 3 sucked. I hated it. It was pretty bad. It should have ended at season 2. It was a perfect kind of ending to that. Book of Boba Fett. I actually really enjoy Book of Boba Fett. I thought the Pikes were interesting. I thought all this stuff was interesting. I really liked the Tuskens. I don't know. I feel like the rest was kind of unneeded besides the Tuskens. If you just want to make a show just on him escaping out of, Sarlacc pit and then joining the Tuskens, and you really could have fleshed that story out a lot more. I kind of would like that. The Acolytes, I've never heard of the Acolyte. I don't know what you're talking about. It sucked. I don't even. It spit over. Oh gosh, it was really bad. It was a
We actually talked about this, Clone. There's a reason why there's no Lego sets for the Acolyte,
yes,
and
yeah.
it's because the show is
Yeah.
so bad that they can't make that
Yeah.
stuff.
And then Skeleton Crew, I actually I enjoyed. I really liked. I don't know. I thought it was kind of just a fun little show. It wasn't lore breaking, wasn't horrifying or anything like that. But yeah, no, honestly, I feel like a lot of these shows can be useful in showing people kind of the world of Star Wars. I think a lot of these are useful. Definitely not the Acolyte though. Don't watch Acolyte or Kenobi. That wasn't good either. Anyways, guys, I gotta dip out. This has been a lot of fun though. So
Thank you
guys,
for coming on.
yeah, check out my channel. I'm on YouTube, Clone Command, a Star Wars podcast on Spotify. And yeah, I really hope you guys have a good conversation after I leave. And I'll see you guys around.
It'll get better once you're gone.
All right.
That's crazy, I guess.
Thank you for coming on, Clone Command. Thank you so much.
Yeah, get out.
Have a good night,
See you
bud.
guys.
Okay,
Alright.
now that he's out of the room, let's talk about the fun stuff. Who thought
Well,
Ahsoka
actually, I
was
quickly wanna say for all the fans that are watching this video, all the links to all these content creators will be in the description below. So make sure you guys subscribe to them because they have amazing content. All right, now back to what you were saying, Outcast.
I was just going to say, which do we think is hotter, Togrutas or Twi'leks? I'm sure Seth has something good to say about this.
Watching Visions, Star Wars Resistance, and the 2D Clone Wars series.
Okay, if we're just going with Visions, first off, I have to say this. I think I would like to see more of this. I think this is something that maybe should have been done a long time ago, and I'm surprised George never did something like this. I liked seeing Star Wars it was just stories that were not about the canon. They were nothing, whatever. They were completely over the top, just seeing this Star Wars in other countries' point of view. I thought that was really unique and beautiful. And each one was kind of a unique story.
Yeah, if you're watching it for the first time, the entire Star Wars franchise, I wouldn't recommend it as a mandatory watch.
No, it's a very niche thing. It's, as you said, it's done in many different art forms, from anime to stop motion. Yes. And it's now the 2D Clone Wars. I actually have to say, I remember seeing this as it came out, and while I didn't necessarily at the time care for the art form, because I've never just been a huge anime person. I know that's a shocker, but I really can't stand anime, just can't. honestly really cool. It does kind of have some things that are important, like such as Grievous getting his chest crushed by what was it, Mace or Yoda? I always forget. I think it was Mace that crushes his chest, and that's why he starts wheezing and coughing after that, which is an interesting little detail. And when you see him enter in the beginning of episode 3, and he enters, and you're like,
Right.
oh man, they carried that over. That's kind of cool. But
Right.
and then what was the last one?
Resistance. Star Wars
Oh,
Resistance.
um,
I
you
never
know,
finished this one.
yeah, I didn't get very far, but I did think it was kind of cool again for like kids and whatnot. It's something I need to go back and kind of really check out more seriously, I guess. But
I agree with that. I think if you're watching Star Wars for the first time, I don't recommend any of these actually. If you're recommending it to a kid, maybe Resistance is a good watch. I think it's not as good quality as the Clone Wars or Star Wars Rebels, but it's definitely something.
So I think none of these are actually mandatory at all.
no,
The only good one out of all of these, in my opinion, well, yes, some episodes of Visions, but the 2D Clone Wars series is pretty good. And I
Right.
do consider some of it canon as well. Ventress fighting Anakin and giving him that scar. I still
That's
think that
canon.
episode straight up, yeah, because they said it's canon. So I do
Right.
think bits of at least the first part of, the 2003 Clone Wars series is actually still canon. It's just like the later half is not that much canon. And I loved how they introduced Grievous and but Resistance. Well, I actually watched all 2 seasons of Resistance, and I gotta say, no, you don't have to watch it at all. It's not that great. And Visions, um, there there are some episodes I just don't like, to be honest with you. But see, that's the thing. I actually, fun fact, I haven't actually finished season 2. I've only watched
Oh.
season 1 completely.
wait, they
So
came out with a season 2 of that?
yeah, there's a season 2 of
Visions?
it.
Oh,
Yeah. So that's why I think season 1, like I know a lot more of season 1, but none of these are really that mandatory, but I do like the 2D Clone Wars series still.
It's also not canon, unfortunately, but there are a lot of good things about it. One, I like Grievous in that show. He's a bigger character, if you will, and he's not a coward. And I love that they actually give depth as to why he basically has COVID. It's just there's some good things about it, and then there's some bad things about it, like how the Jedi are able to all run like the Flash. I don't know, they just seem weird in that show. They don't feel like clones. They just feel like dudes in armor, but they don't sound
Right.
anything like the actual clones. They don't have the accent. They don't have the same kind of energy. They're just kind of like there.
Well, the next section actually is actually I talked to Outcast about this one, and it's a very, in my opinion, important conversation to talk about. Should you watch the Caravan of Courage, the Battle for Endor, and the Star Wars Holiday Special? And I'll start this one off because I just watched these about like a year ago for the first time, and I consider the Caravan of Courage and the Battle for Endor canon.
yeah. I would agree with you on that, because especially if you just look at the characters both times as just like random families and whatnot, that could very easily be during after the collapse of the Empire and all that, and it has Wicked in it, so it's sometime after episode 6. The Ewoks are familiar with seeing people and being friendly with them now, or at least as far as humans and whatnot. I do agree. I think they fit in beautifully canon. Are they a must watch? No. Are they a recommended watch? Yeah, I'd put them on that recommended list if you're going to sit down on a cozy day and just binge the original trilogy. A
Right.
good little way to end the night before you go to bed with the kids and wife and whatnot.
I don't have those.
You will someday, man.
I don't have.
But I digress. Holiday Special, you know what? That is a terrible film, but there's 2 very important things, as I said. It has legacy details in it. And again, the film is nice because you get to see Carrie Fisher sing. You get to see Mark Hamill, and the reason he looks so doll-like in that, like, he looks so weird, like most people don't even believe that it's Mark Hamill. But this is like right after he wrecked his Corvette. If many of you have
Yeah.
ever seen that picture, and this would be a good time to probably show that picture of him, cross-armed on his Corvette with those two chicks or whatever. Like right after that, he gets an accident, and this is why they had to do the whole scene where he gets hit, clawed by the Wampa, because he was still recovering from the scarring and whatnot. It's one of those interesting details that you're like, holy crap, what did they do to Luke? Like, oh my God. And then at the same time, you feel bad once you realize why. And you're like, oh, don't make fun of him. But yeah,
Right.
it has historic precedence in Star Wars, is what I would say. There's so many critical things in it that, no, I would not even put this on the recommended list. But if you are a Star Wars fan, it is something that is kind of warm and dear to your heart to maybe play in the background on Christmas morning. I don't know.
100%. That's 100%. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what?
And also,
I'd
a lot
say.
of the ask.
Oh,
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
go ahead.
Uh,
Go ahead,
I'll
Spooky.
also need to say it. There are a lot of aspects from the holiday special that are in canon Star Wars.
Mhm.
So, for example, Skeleton Crew did have a few of where I don't know, Neil's siblings are watching the show that was in the holiday special, and I got that from Star Wars Theory, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
But there's a lot of cool things from that show that if you're really interested in the Star Wars franchise, and you want to watch more and you don't have anything else to watch, go ahead and watch it.
Agreed. Okay, so we are getting near the end of this video. So, all right, who wants to do their plugs first?
I'll put your stuff in anyways, so it doesn't matter. But in case you want to, plug in your channels, go ahead and do that.
Star Wars Motions. Just
Oh,
talk about your channel, man.
Why am I going first?
Well,
All right, well, if you guys don't know who I am, they can throw up an icon on my channel. But basically, I'm Star Wars Motions, trying to get to 3K by the end of the year. I make Star Wars stop motions. I have a full functioning Star Wars series that many of you can follow. So yeah, if you want to subscribe to me, you can. But you have to subscribe to these guys first. Otherwise, you're not allowed to subscribe to me. It's just common law, and you guys should accept that and subscribe to Spookie, subscribe to Outcast, and think about subscribing to Seth, but maybe don't do it.
I'm Outcast Cantina, just also known as AM. I pretty much just cover lore and a little bit of live action stuff over on my channel. We got some really cool stuff coming this year. If you like a sexy James Earl Jones like voice and Star Wars lore, that's just old school expanded universe and no shilling, stop on by. And don't sub to Seth.
Okay. You guys can find me on Star Wars Network. It's a YouTube channel that will be coming out closer. I'm in the process of making scripts and more, and we got a lot of huge things planned. I will be covering lore with my good old friend Star Wars Motions up here. So if you guys just love all aspects of Star Wars, come check it out. And thank you, Spooky, for having me on.
Oh, thank you for coming.
Oh yeah,
All right,
thanks,
well,
Spooky. Thank you. I forgot to say thank you, man.
of course. I hope this video helps any new Star Wars fans that are new to the franchise and are trying to find their way around all the movies and shows. Thank you for staying tuned, and I'll see you in the next video.
Don't subscribe to Seth.